Recently surfaced video shows Caitlin Clark confronting Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White following their defeat to the Golden State Valkyries. We'll examine that footage shortly, but first, you need the full context. Behind her frustration, it didn't just stem from the blowout loss. The trouble began with a brutal knee strike to her thigh in the second quarter that went uncalled, forcing her to play injured for the entire game. Her coach remained silent throughout, never standing up for her. If White persists with this hands-off approach during controversies, it shifts from a coaching issue to a question of whether Clark's future remains in Indiana at all. The franchise faces a crossroad. Is the team still committed to centering their strategy around Clark, or was this the final straw that pushes her toward the exit? Share your thoughts below. Just look at this sequence. The defender initiates contact, driving her knee directly into Caitlin Clark's quad, and down she goes. Second quarter, Clark attacks the paint, where Kyla Stokes connects with her quad. Clark hits the deck, clutches her leg, and stares at the nearby ref. Nothing happens. No whistle, no break in the action. The game continues as if it were a clean play. She remains down for a moment, searching the official's eyes for some kind of justification, only to be met with total indifference. Knack concedes a three-pointer. Clark is still chasing her first points, then she maneuvers past Burton toward the hoop. There was contact there too, but finally, Clark scores. However, she's clearly hobbling, struggling to get back on defense. The Indiana Fever squander a brief 5-on-4 advantage. Though it was short-lived, Stokes misses another three. Burton grabs the board, and they whistle. Boston. They're quick to call that one, yet they ignored the foul on the other end. If you analyze the replay, Clark was grabbed by her primary defender, kneed in the quad by Stokes, and clipped on the landing. That's 3 fouls on one play. This isn't just a simple missed call. A minor error on a jump shot is easy to shake off. But this was different. That uncalled knee strike caused a contusion that didn't just vanish at the buzzer. Clark had to battle through that physical setback for the duration. Every aggressive move and drive required playing through avoidable agony that a single whistle would have prevented. Even on the opening play, opponents were reaching across Caitlin Clark's frame. That is a clear reaching foul, yet it's how she's officiated every time she touches the ball. And it wasn't the only instance. Golden State constantly got away with illegal shoves and armbars off the ball. Physicality that typically triggers a whistle in almost any other arena or against any other opponent. Time and again, the Valkyries initiated physical contact against Fever athletes without any intervention from the officials. This lack of calls shifted from appearing accidental to looking like a deliberate trend rather than just erratic officiating. Check this out. Keep in mind that Lexi Hull receives no whistle on this specific play. Observe the defender's left arm making contact with Lexi Hull right here. Now, pay close attention to what follows. As the contest reached its peak, Hull was penalized for the very same infraction she had previously endured. It's an identical sequence. To make matters even more frustrating, Golden State only converted 33% of their three-pointers that evening. Indiana actually performed better from the perimeter at 36%. Regardless, the Valkyries maintained their grip on the match, primarily due to Indiana's 16 turnovers. Additionally, every marginal call seemed to go against the Fever. Despite this, Clark attempted to persevere as the third period began. There was a brief period where she regained her flow, hitting some layups and finding open shots. She appeared determined to ignore the discomfort in her leg. However, the injury soon hampered her again, and halfway through the quarter, her explosive movement had vanished. Her initial stride lacked the necessary speed to blow past her markers she usually manages. Observe this assist to Monique Billings, who successfully converts the basket. This segment of the third quarter was a rare moment when the refs permitted Caitlin Clark to actually compete. She hits a mid-range jumper. Suddenly, the game is competitive again. Mitchell fails to finish at the rim, but Clark delivers an incredible dime to Aliyah Boston. Yet, through all this, the referees remain completely indifferent to the situation. Golden State received no cautions, nor did the refs increase their scrutiny after Clark's collision and fall. There was no indication that the WNBA officials even acknowledged the incident had occurred. Throughout the year, spectators have raised the same concern. Clark is subjected to more physical punishment than nearly any other professional in the sport, yet she receives the least amount of protection from the officiating crews. Surprisingly, her head coach, Stephanie White, stayed silent. This is critical because Caitlin's effectiveness relies entirely on her agility and equilibrium. If you neutralize her quick first step, you eliminate the necessary room she requires to launch her jumper or attack the basket, the very traits that define her legendary playstyle. This was merely the beginning of her struggles. Things were slated to deteriorate further, leaving Clark visibly frustrated. The officiating pair of Ford and Gatling are being quite lenient regarding Clark's emotional outbursts. Occasionally, players need to express their grievances. Observe Clark's demeanor as she exits the court. She is far from composed. She is gesturing wildly and confronting the ref directly, with every movement signaling her intense anger. The frustration finally boils over, marking a pivotal turning point in the entire matchup against the Golden State squad. Let's break down the sequence. Despite her leg pain, Clark pushes through the following set, but rather than returning quietly to the sideline when the whistle blows, she spins toward the official to voice her intense disapproval regarding the previous sequence. With animated gestures, she signals toward the specific area of the hardwood where the collision occurred, getting right in his personal space. This wasn't just a brief comment or a simple grievance, but rather a cumulative explosion of every missed whistle since the half began, unloaded directly on him all at once. Naturally, the broadcast pivots to the Indiana sideline, focusing on Stephanie White to gauge her reaction. One would assume the head coach would be charging toward the refs, supporting her star athlete while insisting on some sort of clarification for the ruling. It's the anticipated response, yet it never happened. White remains motionless with her arms folded, staying silent and offering no outward sign of advocacy for Clark whatsoever. There's no gesturing or verbal defense. She doesn't even move toward the play. She simply spectates as her elite talent battles without support. This contrasts sharply with typical coaching behavior. Usually, staff will confront the officiating crew immediately to ensure their frustration is noted for the upcoming plays and future matchups. Standing up for your roster serves a specific purpose. It sends a message that the refs are being scrutinized and reassures the player that the staff has their back. The audience noticed the disconnect right away. Caitlin was battling both the opposing defense and the referees simultaneously, yet her coach failed to offer any assistance in pleading the case. White's later remarks only reinforced this perception. When questioned about the missed whistle, she remarked that the officials viewed Caitlin as the aggressor. With a sarcastic grin, she noted that her star player frequently seems to be the one starting the physical play. She then said, "I'm attempting to avoid a penalty fee. My only comment is that we are looking for more uniform officiating." That was the extent of it. Zero immediate support on the court and a witty quip during the press conference. You claimed she's often the one making contact. Based on that, what's your take on the general quality of the reffing this evening or overall? Listen, I don't want to lose money. By the third period, the Fever began fighting their way back into contention. As the arena erupted, Indiana chipped away at the deficit with every trip down the floor, causing the home stadium to come alive. Suddenly, however, Clark was no longer on the court. This is the point where the discussion surrounding limited playing time resurfaces. Clark was restricted to approximately 26 total minutes on court during the game, despite having stated publicly that she felt well and wished to continue playing despite her leg. She's publicly affirming her readiness, yet she spent a significant portion of the final quarter observing from. So, a couple of points I observed. Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston were on the floor for merely 25 minutes out of a possible 40. With 3 minutes remaining in the third period, Just as Caitlin Clark moved to the bench, the score was 44-42. We possess the capability to comfortably defeat this opponent, even though they represent one of the league's top-tier organizations. However, the pattern isn't exclusive to her. Aliyah Boston also found herself substituted during that exact same critical juncture. Consequently, both of Indiana's primary two-way contributors are sidelined precisely during the game segment that genuinely dictates the outcome. These two athletes, capable of defending, securing rebounds, and generating plays, were both confined to the bench at the same juncture, exactly when the match's fate was hanging precariously. And considering the game during that final critical period, it's present here. It could simply be a factor unknown to us. Obviously, we are not privy to the team's huddle. We are not inside Stephanie White's thought process. Perhaps Timpson is offering a dynamic that Coach White currently favors and intends to maintain. And we observe Coach White introducing more substitutions to remove some of these players. As you noted regarding Game 44, I believe preserving energy is absolutely essential. Both Caitlin and Aliyah Boston have experienced periods away from the court. The team's rally immediately halts the moment this transpires. You can literally witness the momentum drain away from the arena. Possession after possession. The instant Clark and Boston are simultaneously pulled from the lineup, the venue grows silent, the defense becomes less aggressive, and Golden State begins to counter every Indiana scoring run before it can even truly develop. Now, contrast that with Kelsey Mitchell, who played 35 minutes and ended the game with 20 points. A substantial portion of those scores came late in the fourth quarter, well after the game's outcome was already decided, as Golden State had once again extended their lead significantly. Another point I noted was Kelsey, Mitchell's start to the match. The ball passed right through her grasp, went out of bounds, her shot attempt was denied. She scored one basket, but then missed completely with an airball. She was allowed to remain in the contest. She was afforded the chance to rediscover her rhythm, find her game, and subsequently began to dominate the opposing squad. When Caitlin Clark, however, misses several attempts, she's promptly benched and denied the opportunity to do the same. This stark contrast was a frequent observation during this specific game. This disparity is precisely where the accusations of stat padding begin to circulate among supporters and commentators. Why is Mitchell logging significant minutes in inconsequential periods while Clark and Boston, those two athletes who genuinely provide Indiana a shot at success, remain inactive on the bench? This logic falters if victory is the aim for the current encounter. Golden State, conversely, maintained its composure consistently. Natalie Nakase leads her roster in playing with discipline and avoids panic. They don't become careless, they simply anticipate Indiana's substitutions to generate an opportunity. And it materializes right on cue. A limited playing time rule is understandable at the outset of an injury recovery. No one disputes that aspect, but its justification vanishes the instant it costs the squad the actual game they're competing in, because then you're not safeguarding a player, instead you're gifting points to the opposition. This specific decision to keep a player on the bench is what supporters frequently reference when they assert Clark's exasperation shifted from officiating to management. The referees overlooking a knee to the thigh presents one issue. Being withdrawn during your team's rally while you declare yourself to be feeling fine is an entirely distinct dilemma, and it falls squarely on Stephanie White's shoulders. And even with merely 26 minutes played, an unfair call, and a leg incident that never received the deserved whistle, Clark still posted statistics that will only intensify criticism of this benching. So now we have Stephanie White substituting Caitlin Clark. Bang! Caitlin Clark impacts the scorer's table forcefully. She is incensed. She is furious because she is continually being taken out as she disagrees with the minute limitation. Yet she's convinced herself to grudgingly accept the minute restriction. And we are currently reaching our breaking point. We are now utterly frustrated because I keep getting deceived by everyone around me. I continue to comply, and deep down I know it isn't the correct course of action, but I am performing to the best of my ability. Now I am enraged. Now I am becoming truly angered. Here is the visual proof everyone has anticipated. Clark is withdrawn for the ultimate time, and what unfolds next provides the clearest insight yet into her emotional state with this squad. Clark is exiting the court. The knee injury sustained in the second quarter, the numerous uncalled fouls accumulating throughout the night. The decision to bench her precisely when Indiana was fighting its way back into the match. All of these burdens weighing on her as she approaches the sideline, and she makes no effort to conceal any of it this time. The recording depicts Clark forcefully striking her hand down on the scorer's stand as she passes by. Not a gentle tap, not a casual brush, but an unequivocal slam. Its sound was audible enough to cause the people at the table to visibly react. Her exasperation is no longer merely seeping out, it's the entire accumulated tension of the evening erupting in a singular outburst. What follows is even more telling. Clark proceeds directly past Stephanie White as she heads toward the bench, completely bypassing any eye contact, acknowledgement, or spoken words between them. She simply strides by, as if her head coach isn't even present. Bang! She forcefully strikes the commentary desk. Stephanie White attempts to offer a fist bump, but Caitlin Clark conspicuously avoids any desire to acknowledge her with one. Caitlin Clark clearly doesn't even want to greet her coach. Caitlin Clark finds herself unable to meet this coach's gaze. She cannot even look Stephanie White in the eye. Once more, Caitlin, stop deluding yourself. You dislike this coach, and the coach feels the same about you. Cease your self-deception. Contrast this with their typical interactions. On most evenings, as Clark exits the court, she's immediately engaged with White, discussing what the opposition's defense had just executed, pointing out details on the sideline clipboard, collaboratively strategizing the next play. That immediate communication is usually a given. This time, there's utter silence, just quietude and a direct path to her bench seat. Regarding her post-game remarks about the uncalled foul and related incidents, Clark described the blow to her thigh dispassionately, stating it was a missed infraction that compelled her to alter her gameplay for the remainder of the match. Her account was devoid of any theatrics, simply presenting the reality that an unnoticed whistle by the officials ultimately shaped her entire performance that night. Caitlin, could you elaborate on that second quarter sequence with Stokes that caused your frustration, resulting in you limping to the back? That's truly painful. The referee cannot overlook such an incident. And then I have to compete with a contusion in my leg for the entire game. It's preposterous. You mustn't miss calls of that nature. Did they offer you an explanation right away when you inquired? She asserted that I initiated the contact. That's one thing, but you cannot knee me in the leg, causing me to fall over. Pertaining to her restricted playing time, her demeanor conveyed as much as her words. She had already expressed clearly before the game that she felt fit and intended to play through any lingering discomfort, being benched regardless precisely during the period Indiana was building momentum did not sit well with her whatsoever. This is audible in the brevity of her responses when that subject arises. Now, people are posing the critical inquiry whether Stephanie White's authority within the team is beginning to waver due to decisions like this one. A coach who fails to advocate for her key player with the officials and lacks trust in managing her minutes is a coach whose reputation will inevitably become a topic of discussion. Speculation about her star player being traded. I generated several promising shot attempts that failed to drop, and subsequently, I took more challenging shots as well. Yet, I felt I eventually managed to play with increased urgency and a greater sense of explosiveness, particularly during the crucial final quarter. Still, I hope not to continuously be on the court for 25 minutes. Regarding that, about the contusion, oh, we'll just massage it out, it's no big deal. A quick rub with the knuckles and consider it looking. Looking at the situation from another angle, because this is where events are now progressing. Supporters are already marking this specific evening. The knee injury, the sideline decision, the ignored white, as the precise juncture when individuals ofcom sec reflect back to the time Clark chooses to depart from Indiana. The desk impact and the dismissive gesture are no longer merely signs of annoyance. They serve as evidence that Clark will not quietly endure this situation a second time. Therefore, how did Clark truly utilize the playing time she received? Despite her injured leg and the discontinuous rotation, the statistical summary provides a clearer answer than any verbal debate. Her ultimate stat line shows 13 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, and 4 turnovers. Now, consider those figures in light of everything she endured throughout that game. An uncalled foul on her quad, a coach who sidelined her precisely when Indiana was pressing, mounting a comeback, and suddenly 13 points and 6 assists appear significantly more impressive than they do in isolation. This indicates an almost double-double level of influence compressed into an evening where she received insufficient playing time to establish a genuine, consistent rhythm. Aliyah Boston's statistics also reveal a distinct narrative. 15 points, 7 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals, 3 blocks. This represents a comprehensive two-sided contribution, encompassing scoring, retrieving boards, and securing the defense, all accomplished within a single game. And her minutes were curtailed precisely when Indiana most required her presence on the court. Specifically, in these half-court scenarios, the Valkyries demonstrate exceptional proficiency. Yet Cunningham is unstoppable. Furthermore, Sophie Cunningham entered the game from the reserves and delivered 10 points alongside 4 steals. This exemplifies the exact vigor available within this lineup, poised for opportunity once the chance truly arises. Cunningham requires no explicit permission to operate. She simply plays with speed and physicality the moment she enters the game. And this immediately reflects on the statistics. 6 for 7 from long range in the Fever's victory over Las Vegas. Simpson in the post exhibiting remarkable composure. A breakdown in communication occurred during the fast break. An infrequent fast break score for the Fever, Natalie Nakase requests a timeout with Golden State holding a 1-point advantage, Ruth. The Fever aims to generate some offense. Nothing here suggests a squad lacking in skill. Instead, it appears to be a roster whose players are not being strategically placed to leverage the capabilities they already possess. The athletes consistently perform and deliver, despite the surrounding organizational framework continuously disrupting their flow entirely. This serves as undeniable proof that the issue, without question, lies with strategic execution rather than the players themselves. Lexi Hull, along with Indiana's remaining substitute players, contributes further depth to the squad. Indiana possesses the necessary talent to truly impress within the league, assuming playing time is managed with confidence rather than persistent hesitation. Picture this identical lineup, but with Clark showcasing uninhibited play, without the constant substitutions or restricted playing time which hampered her performance all evening. You'd likely witness a vastly altered outcome versus Golden State, perhaps a completely changed conclusion. Clark maneuvers past the screen set by Boston. That duo is performing exceptionally. Indeed, she's open for an easy layup. Critical moments demand reliance on your key players, and those two, specifically Clark and Boston, demonstrate that dynamic, secures the ball. This perfectly encapsulates the frustration experienced by supporters observing these events play out. No one is upset regarding the caliber of players on this squad. Their skill consistently shines through each game. The real source of discontent stems from witnessing a game that could have been won be lost due to lineup changes, not due to Indiana's inability to match up. With Golden State's theoretical strength, the statistics undeniably speak for themselves. Clark and the rest of the team are prepared for extended, unconstrained play, and the sole obstacle preventing this team from achieving significant victories is the coaching staff's approach to player rotations. Moreover, consider what immediately transpired once Clark was removed from the game permanently. That particular segment of the video has been the subject of continuous discussion ever since its release. July 15th represented more than a mere defeat against Golden State. It marked the evening Clark realized her own team leadership no longer supported her. This ranged from the official who overlooked a foul causing a knee injury to her quadricep to the coach observing passively, arms folded. Should White continue with her current management approach, this issue transcends mere coaching strategy. It evolves into a serious discussion concerning Clark's long-term prospects, if any, with the Indiana team. Consequently, a critical inquiry now overshadows this entire organization. Will Indiana persist in structuring its team around Clark, or will this particular match signify the very moment she chooses to depart? Share your thoughts in the comment section beneath this video and be sure to hit like, subscribe, and activate all notifications as we deliver comprehensive coverage and major updates. Select the on-screen video, and we will connect with you again shortly.